Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here at such an important tekes, and I'm with you all 100%. If there's 200%, I could not agree with you more in everything that you want to accomplish. And I wrote the book to prove it. It's not just words. So I hope everyone speaks English. Most people speak English. I'm speaking to you as today as a private citizen, but I do know a few things about the issue of sovereignty over Yehuda v'Shomron. I worked on it, and the great disappointment I have of 4 years in office in the first Trump administration, whereas Speaker Ohana was kind enough to point out those accomplishments. We accomplished a lot, but it's still, I left office with a great disappointment that we didn't at least begin the process of Ribonut on Yehuda v'Shomron, and I'm convinced that that day will come, and it will come soon. I wrote this book. I wrote it in English, but it was since translated into Hebrew. I wrote this book really to lay out a vision, not the only vision, but a vision of Ribonut on Yehuda v'Shomron. It's all of Yehuda v'Shomron. People in America on college campuses, you know, they yell from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Well, my view is from the river to the sea, Israel will be free. That's the vision that I have. And I want to just speak to you briefly and make, you know, there's a lot in here. I hope people will read it. All the proceeds go to charity in Yehuda v'Shomron, so I'm not making any money on this, but I hope people will read it. I'll just make 5 points that I think are important, having given this some thought. The first, maybe the most important thing, the decision for Israel to extend its sovereignty over Judea and Samaria is Israel's decision alone. Okay? No one else can make that decision for Israel. I can tell you from 4 years as a diplomat, there are a lot of people interested in this subject. A lot of people in America, in the government, NGOs in America, the European Union, the United Nations, the Quartet, the Gulf. Lots of people are very interested, and people have very strong opinions over Yehuda v'Shomron, but it's Israel that has to live with the outcome of its decision, and it's Israel and Israel alone that has to decide this issue for itself and by itself. The second point I would make is that, and I say this with great affection for Israel, for its leadership, great understanding of all the things Israel has gone through. For 77 years, Israel has not known a day of peace in its entire existence, still in a state of war with some of its neighbors. The last 2 years, it's been fighting a war on 7 fronts, performing, I would say, magnificently, but still at war. Many other challenges, so I understand that this is not always going to be a priority, but I will tell you the decision on sovereignty over Judea and Samaria is long overdue. It's time. It's time to address this issue. 58 years since the Six-Day War, and the uncertainty regarding Israel's eastern border is neither advantageous nor sustainable. You know, you can go anywhere in the world and ask a kid in 4th grade to draw a map of his country, just draw the perimeter of the country. Here you'll get different answers. Somebody will draw at the Jordan River, somebody will draw the Green Line, somebody will, if they have more sophistication, maybe, you know, something more exotic, the Alon Plan, whatever, but there's no consensus about the longest border in this country. And I understand why we're at that point, but the decision is overdue. It's time. And I know that there is a broad consensus, certainly there's a broad consensus that Israel cannot retreat to the suicide borders of before 1967. There's a consensus. Everybody agrees with that. But I will tell you, the failure, as an American, somebody watching from the outside, the failure to act upon that, I fear, diminishes the credibility of the argument. If you keep saying something over and over again, but you don't act on it, you lose credibility. And none of us want to see that happen, certainly not any more than it already has. The third point, this is a complicated decision. It's a complicated process. I worked on this for a number of months in 2020. We had committees and we had mapping issues. It's complicated, not just the geographics, but how it works, the plumbing, the economics, all of that, how it works. I think that it's important to take this beyond the concept and to make this as detailed as possible and to present it to the Israeli population, to present it to the whole world, and to show how this is, the way some people refer to this in America, this is not a land grab. This is not Israel just grabbing territory. This is a win-win, if you will, for all the inhabitants of the area. Israel gets very little credit for something which is very unusual in this world. It's been fighting, on 7 fronts with people of Arab persuasion, and nonetheless, it has about 17% of its population, of its citizenship, is Arab. And if you look at all the elite universities in Israel, more than 20% of the students at Israel's elite universities are Arab. Israel, like no other country in the Middle East, knows how to empower an Arab minority. And so I believe that, again, with the passage of time, Israel has the opportunity to advance the interests of Palestinian Arabs in ways that only Israel has shown a capacity to do. Now you say, well, what about those who are lurking in terror, the terrorists throughout Judea and Samaria? Well, I'm not an expert in security, but I would argue that having Israel on the ground, as the sovereign of all of Judea and Samaria makes it better and stronger to police terrorism than in the current situation. But I think that there is a case here to be made to the world that this is the best outcome for everybody in Yehuda v'Shomron, and I think that case can be made. The fourth thing I would say is this: try to develop a national consensus on this issue. It will be very valuable going forward. To do this by a slim minority, it may be legally possible. I'm not an expert in how your laws work. Maybe legally possible, but it's not the way to do it, because there's going to be challenges and there's going to be headwinds and there's going to be people that think this is a bad idea and it's inappropriate, and all the ugliness and the nastiness of those who hate Israel will certainly come out. If Israel can do this with the tailwind, with the wind at its back from its own people, from at least a majority of its own people saying, yes, this is the right direction, I think it's worth the effort to really respect the views of all the people in Israel and try to develop that national consensus. And the fifth of my five points is this. One Jewish state from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea cannot impose any risk on Israel continuing to be a Jewish state. And there are many countries in the world with a national religion. There are many Muslim nations. There are Christian nations. There are Hindu nations. There are Buddhist nations. Nobody cares. Nobody says a word about it. Nobody complains. Israel must always be a Jewish state. And what that means, it's not too much to ask for. And no one should be embarrassed about saying it. Just one Jewish state in a land area that's no bigger than New Jersey. Just one Jewish state, not 2, not 3, not 5. No one's looking to export an empire beyond it. Just one Jewish state in such a small little area of land. And that doesn't mean one Jewish state. It does not mean that the territory that Israel will assert sovereignty over conveys the rights of the Palestinian population to vote in a national election. That can't happen, and it won't happen. But it's not the first time this has been addressed. In fact, in my country, in America, we have sovereignty over places like Puerto Rico. I talk about it in the book. We have sovereignty over Puerto Rico. If you live in Puerto Rico, you don't vote in a national election. Nobody accuses America of being an apartheid state. There are ways to resolve these issues. And in fact, there was just, I think, 10 days ago, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal about 5 sheikhim from Hebron that want to establish their own municipality. I think they call it an emirate, but a municipality in Hebron, and under the rubric of an overall Jewish state. I mean, there are ways to resolve this problem without creating a demographic nightmare. Any one of these issues, every one of these issues can be addressed, can be resolved. So let me just conclude like this. There never was a two-state solution. We've come to realize that time and time again. There never was one. But in the aftermath of October 7th, I would say that even the two-state illusion is now dead. Okay, it's dead. It will never come back. And I would say that creates, for us right now, today, an opportunity. I would say that the political climate in the United States has never been better. And I won't go that, I will say, in Hebrew, hamevin yavin. It's never been stronger. The relationship between America and Israel has never been stronger. What happened, a couple of weeks ago, the United States and Israel together, offensively together, eliminating threats from Iran. It never happened before in the history of either country. So we are looking at a unique opportunity that exists now. I would just say, chaval, if we don't take advantage of it. And finally, I will say this, just to end on a less technical note. Judea and Samaria was promised to the Jewish people, was promised to the Jewish nation by God, to Abraham, and again to Isaac, and again to Jacob. None of us should really be surprised that fulfilling this plan, and I say fulfilling God's will, results in the best outcome for all the inhabitants of this ancient land. So I want to wish you hatzlacha rabbah, the best of luck in all these efforts. If I can be of any assistance, I'm just a phone call away. And may God bless you, and may God bless the state of Israel, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.